Becky Wandale walked through the busy streets of Dar es Salaam every morning with tired eyes but a steady heart. He taught at a small public school where the classrooms were crowded, the chalk was always running out, and the pay barely covered his basic needs. To survive, he worked extra hours after school, helping students who struggled, even though he needed the time for himself. Whatever little money he earned went first to rent, and then to medicine for his sick mother. Most days he skipped lunch, so she wouldn't go without treatment. Even when exhaustion dragged him down, he kept a soft smile on his face, never letting anyone know how hard life truly was for him. Despite carrying heavy worries, he treated every child with patience. His students loved him because he listened to them, encouraged them, and believed in them more than they believed in themselves. He often walked home late in the evening, long after other teachers had left, just to make sure every assignment was marked and every lesson was ready. His shoes were old, his clothes were simple, but his kindness made him feel rich in ways money could not measure. One hot afternoon, as he left the school with sweat on his forehead and fatigue in his steps, he saw a small boy sitting alone near a crowded bus stop. The child's shoulders shook as he cried quietly, trying to hide his face behind his hands. Becky could not ignore him. He knelt down and spoke softly, asking what was wrong. The little boy struggled to speak at first, his voice trembling as he explained he had gotten lost and did not know how to get home. He looked terrified and helpless. Becky's heart tightened. He knew how frightening it felt to have no one to depend on. He gently offered comfort, wiping the boy's tears and telling him he was safe now. Even though Becky had only a few coins left for the day, he bought the child water so he could calm down. He sat beside him under the hot sun, refusing to leave until he felt better. He didn't know where the child had come from or who he belonged to, but nothing mattered more to him than making sure the little boy felt protected. People walked past them without noticing, but Becky stayed, showing the same compassion he always carried, quiet, steady, and sincere. He had no idea his simple act of humanity was about to change the rest of his life. One hot afternoon, while walking home from school, Becky wiped sweat from his forehead and tried to ignore the heaviness in his legs after a long day of teaching. As he passed the noisy bus station, he noticed something that made him stop immediately. A tiny boy sat alone on the edge of a bench, his small shoulders shaking as tears rolled down his cheeks. People moved around him without paying attention, rushing to catch buses or shouting for taxis, but the child looked completely lost in the middle of all the chaos. Becky walked closer and saw fear in the boy's wide eyes, the kind of fear that made his heart tighten. He crouched down gently so he wouldn't scare him. The boy's hands trembled, and he tried to hide his face as if he expected someone to shout at him. His clothes were dusty, and his breathing was uneven like he had been crying for a long time. Becky spoke softly, asking if he was hurt or if someone had left him behind. The boy finally whispered his name, Kabelo Mzundu, but his voice broke as he said it. He explained that he had gotten separated from the person he was with, and had no idea how to get home. The more he talked, the more frightened he sounded. Becky felt a strong urge to help. The child's fear reminded him of moments in his own childhood when he felt alone and powerless. He reached into his pocket and felt only a few coins, the last of his money for the day, but he didn't hesitate. He walked to a nearby kiosk and bought a small bottle of water, then returned and handed it to Kabelo. The boy held it with both hands, took tiny sips, and slowly stopped shaking. Becky sat beside him even though the heat pressed down like a heavy blanket. He asked simple questions, trying to learn anything that could help find where he belonged. But Kabelo was confused, overwhelmed, and unable to remember any useful details. Seeing the boy struggle to speak made Becky lean closer and assure him he wasn't going anywhere. As buses roared past and strangers hurried by, Becky stayed calm and focused, becoming the boy's only source of comfort in that crowded place. His presence made Kabelo relax little by little, and trust began to show in his eyes. Becky had no idea who the child really was or how important he would be, but in that moment, all he cared about was making sure the terrified little boy beside him felt safe again. Kabelo can't remember his father's phone number, and the more he tries to think, the more confused he becomes. His small hands pull at his shirt, his lips shake, and every few seconds fresh tears form in his eyes. He looks like a child fighting between fear and exhaustion, unable to stop himself from panicking. Becky sees how overwhelmed he is and gently tells him to breathe slowly. His voice is calm, warm, and steady, the kind of voice that makes scared children feel safe. Cabello looks up at him with wide, frightened eyes, unsure of what will happen next. To help him relax, Becky decides to get him something to drink. He checks his pocket and finds only a few coins, the very last money he has for the day. It is the amount he usually uses to buy dinner on his way home. But when he looks at Cabello's trembling hands, he doesn't think twice. He walks to a small shop nearby and buys a bottle of water. When he returns, he opens it carefully and hands it to the boy. Cabello drinks slowly at first, then takes deeper sips as the cool water eases his shaking. His breathing becomes steadier, and for the first time, his shoulders stop trembling. Becky sits beside him, creating a small space of safety amid the loud, busy bus station. People rush past them, taxis honk, and conductors shout, but Becky focuses only on Cabello. He doesn't try to force him to speak. Instead, he stays close, watching him with gentle patience. The boy slowly begins to trust him, leaning a little closer whenever the noise around them gets too loud. Time passes, but Becky never leaves his side. The afternoon sun slowly turns orange, stretching long shadows across the ground. Cabello wipes his face again and again, sometimes whispering a word or two, then falling quiet. He tries once more to remember the number, but nothing comes to mind. Each failed attempt makes him look more guilty and scared, as if he has done something terribly wrong. Becky reassures him that it's okay, reminding him softly that getting lost can happen to anyone. As the light fades and the sky turns darker, most people around them head home. But Becky stays right where he is, refusing to let the child sit alone again. He doesn't know how long it will take or how they will solve this problem, but he is determined to protect the frightened boy beside him until help arrives. His quiet commitment begins to turn an ordinary day into something unforgettable. People begin noticing the teacher holding the child, and at first it is just a few curious glances, but soon more people slow down and whisper to each other. Some point at them, others frown as if something is wrong. Becky feels the change in the atmosphere immediately. What was once a normal, busy place suddenly becomes tense. A man steps forward and asks loudly why he is carrying a child who is crying. Another woman says she has never seen him with the boy before. Their voices attract even more attention. Within minutes, a small crowd forms around them. Faces look suspicious, and people begin asking aggressive questions. Someone accuses him of trying to run away with the child. Another person mutters that kidnappers often pretend to help. The comments spread fast, like fire moving through dry grass. Cabello clings tightly to Becky's shirt, sensing the danger and beginning to cry again. His soft sobs only make the group more doubtful. They mistake the boy's fear for guilt, and the situation starts to spiral. Becky tries to explain, but the noise is too loud. Several people cut him off, demanding proof that he isn't the person responsible for the child's distress. He searches his pockets for something, anything, that could help him defend himself, but he has nothing. No documents, no one around who knows him, no way to show that he simply found Cabello alone. The realization hits him hard. He looks exactly like the kind of person the crowd fears, even though he is innocent. The shouting grows. Some people pull out their phones to record, while others step closer, creating a tight circle. A few men argue about whether they should call the police immediately. One even suggests holding Becky until officers arrive. Panic rises inside him, but he forces himself to stay calm for Cabello's sake. He grips the boy gently, whispering that everything will be okay, even though his own voice shakes. The pressure builds as the crowd becomes louder and more aggressive. Fingers point at him, phones capture him from every angle, and rumors spread with every passing second. Cabello cries harder, burying his face in Becky's shoulder. The teacher feels his heart racing, but he refuses to put the child down or walk away. Even surrounded, accused, and misunderstood, he stays by the boy's side, hoping anyone, will believe him before things get worse. Instead of walking away, Becky shields the child, pulling Cabello gently behind him as the crowd pushes closer. His voice shakes, but he refuses to stay silent. He keeps telling everyone that the boy was already lost and crying when he found him, but the more he explains, the less the crowd listens. People shout over him, some accusing him of pretending to be calm, others saying kidnappers often act innocent. The noise becomes so loud that Cabello covers his ears and cries harder, terrified by the angry faces around him. Mbeki raises his hands slightly, trying to show he means no harm. His heart pounds, yet he stands firm, blocking anyone who tries to get too close to the frightened boy. One man demands that they grab him before he escapes. Another steps forward as if planning to pull Cabello away by force. Mbeki reacts quickly, placing his body between them and the child, refusing to let anyone touch him. Sweat drips down his face, but he keeps repeating that the boy is scared and needs help, not chaos. His calmness only frustrates the crowd more. A few people start recording him, spreading rumors before the truth can even be heard. Someone calls him a liar. Someone else shouts that they should hold him down until officers arrive. Mbeki feels trapped, but he doesn't move an inch. Cabello clings to his shirt, trembling, begging him not to leave. That tiny, scared voice gives Mbeki the strength to keep standing in front of him like a shield. Just when the situation feels like it might explode, a sharp whistle cuts through the noise. A security guard from the bus station pushes through the crowd, yelling for everyone to step back. His presence forces the crowd to pause. He sees Mbeki protecting the child, and immediately senses something is wrong with the accusations. He orders people to stop shouting and demands space so he can understand what is happening. The guard approaches carefully, speaking firmly but respectfully. After hearing Mbecky's short explanation, and seeing how desperately the boy clings to him, he realizes this is not a kidnapping. Without wasting time, he calls the police and requests immediate assistance, hoping they can find the child's family quickly. The crowd grows quieter, though many still stare suspiciously. Mbeki holds Cabello close, exhausted but relieved that someone finally stepped in. Even with fear still hanging in the air, he stays steady, determined to protect the boy until real help arrives. Minutes later, a convoy of luxury SUVs screeches to a stop near the bus station, their engines roaring loudly over the fading afternoon noise. Dust swirls around the shiny black vehicles as several men in dark suits jump out, moving quickly with precision. They push through the remaining crowd with serious expressions, scanning the area for any sign of danger. People step back, their eyes wide in amazement, whispering to each other about the strange arrival. Some fumble with their phones, trying to capture the scene, while others stare in disbelief at the sudden show of wealth and power in the middle of an ordinary street. From the center of the group, a tall man with an air of authority and urgency steps forward. His face is sharp, his gaze fixed on the small figure clinging to Mbeki. He wears a crisp, tailored suit that reflects the afternoon sun, and every movement shows control and focus. This is Sefune Gobiz, a name that many recognize as one of Africa's richest and most powerful men. For a brief moment, the crowd goes silent, sensing the tension and significance of his presence. Sefu's eyes widen in terror as he sees Cabello, his own son, held by a stranger in the middle of the street. Without thinking, Cabello lets go of Mbeki and runs as fast as his small legs can carry him, leaping into his father's open arms. Sefu catches him immediately, wrapping him tightly and pressing a gentle but protective hand over the boy's back. Cabello buries his face into his father's chest, finally safe and comforted after what had felt like an eternity. The boy clings to him, shivering from relief and exhaustion, his sobs slowly fading into quiet sniffles. The crowd freezes completely, unsure of how to react to the sudden turn of events. Mouths hang open, eyes widen, and phones drop in astonishment. Some stare at Mbeki with confusion, wondering who this man is and why a billionaire's son had been in his care. Others are captivated by the dramatic reunion, unable to look away as father and son embrace. Whispers spread like wildfire. People murmur about the boy's identity, the wealth surrounding him, and the ordinary teacher who had kept him safe until now. Mbeki stands a few steps back, sweat glistening on his forehead, his heart still racing. He watches silently, feeling a mixture of relief and awe. The chaotic crowd, the accusing voices, and the fear from just minutes ago all vanish in the face of this powerful, emotional moment. Everything feels suspended in time as Sefu holds Cabello tightly, showing the depth of a father's love and the extraordinary impact of Mbeki's quiet courage. Sefu listens as Mbeki explains everything carefully, his voice steady despite the lingering tension from the earlier crowd. He tells the billionaire how he saw Cabello alone, crying and frightened, and how he could not leave him there. Mbeki describes how he offered water even though it was the last money he had for the day, and how he stayed with the boy under the scorching sun, keeping him safe from strangers and the chaos of the busy street. Every detail is filled with care, showing not just his actions but the heart behind them. He recounts how he spoke gently to Cabello, how he held him close when the little boy was trembling, and how he tried to calm him when panic overcame him. Mbeki explains how he blocked people from getting too close, arguing quietly but firmly with the crowd that had accused him of wrongdoing. He shares how he waited patiently until help arrived, refusing to leave the boy alone for a single second. His words are honest, humble, and sincere, carrying no expectation of reward, only the simple wish to help someone in need. Sefiu watches him quietly, the tension in his own shoulders slowly easing. For a man who is used to wealth, power, and control over nearly everything in life, this kind of pure, selfless compassion is rare. The way Mbeki stayed calm while protecting a child he didn't even know moves him more than any gesture of respect or wealth ever could. The billionaire's eyes soften, and for the first time that day, the weight of his busy, material world feels lighter. He notices the small details in Mbecky's story, the way he gave his last coin, the quiet patience, the care in every gesture. It is not just about helping a lost child. It is about seeing someone else's fear and acting without hesitation. Sefiu thinks of the luxury and privilege he takes for granted, and he feels an unexpected admiration for this ordinary man who showed extraordinary kindness. The crowd, the noise, and the city's chaos fade into the background as Sefiu's attention focuses entirely on Mbeki. He realizes that real strength is not measured in money, influence, or appearances, but in small acts of courage and compassion. Watching a humble teacher defend and comfort a terrified child makes him rethink the way he values life, and a quiet smile begins to form on his face, a rare sign of genuine feeling. In that moment, Sefiu understands that Mbeki's simple, brave actions are worth more than all the wealth in the world. Sefiu asks, "Why would you help a child you don't know?" His voice is calm but filled with curiosity and a hint of disbelief. He looks directly at Mbeki, trying to understand what drives a man to care so deeply for someone he has never met. Around them, the crowd has grown quiet, sensing the importance of the moment. Even Cabello, safe in his father's arms, glances up at Mbeki with a mixture of trust and relief, as if he knows the answer will explain everything. Mbeki looks back at Sefiu with steady eyes, his expression calm and honest. He doesn't hesitate, "Because he was scared, and I could help," he says simply. The words are short, almost too ordinary to capture the weight of what he has done, yet in them lies everything. A pure truth, free from pride or expectation. He does not boast about his actions, he does not list the hardships he has endured. He only speaks from the heart, focusing on what mattered most in that moment, keeping the child safe. Sefiu pauses, absorbing the simplicity of the answer. It is not the dramatic explanation he expected, not a story of heroism or reward. It is a basic human truth, that when someone is in need, you do what you can to protect them. The billionaire feels an unfamiliar heaviness in his chest, a mixture of admiration and self-reflection. He has lived surrounded by wealth and influence, yet he rarely encounters such pure, selfless courage. The clarity of Mbeki's words hits him in a way money never could. Around them, people begin to whisper, noticing the unusual calm and humility in Mbeki's demeanor. His small act of kindness, done quietly and without expectation, suddenly seems monumental. Sefiu's face softens, and for the first time that day, he feels the impact of witnessing true generosity. He thinks about his own life, the endless rush of responsibilities, the pursuit of power, and realizes how little he has seen such genuine care for another human being. The moment stretches quietly, charged with emotion. Sefiu takes a deep breath, the enormity of what has happened settling into his mind. He sees not just a teacher, but a man whose heart led him to do the right thing, even when it was hard and risky. The simplicity of Mbeki's answer, "Because he was scared, and I could help," shakes Sefiu deeply, leaving a lasting impression he knows will never fade. It is a lesson in humanity, compassion, and the unexpected power of one selfless act. Sefiu later investigates Mbeki and learns he's poor, underpaid, and struggling to make ends meet. He discovers that Mbeki works long hours at the small school, often skipping meals and walking long distances just to save money. Even with so little, he still finds ways to care for his students, encouraging them to study hard and treat each other kindly. Sefiu reads accounts from the school principal and other teachers, who describe Mbeki as patient, hardworking, and always willing to help, even when it costs him time or energy. As he digs deeper, Sefiu uncovers the story of Mbeki's mother. She is ill and requires constant medical attention, yet Mbeki manages to pay her bills on his modest salary. He sacrifices his own needs to make sure she has medicine, food, and comfort. He lives in a small, humble home, with old furniture and peeling walls, but he never complains. Everything he has goes toward helping others, whether it's his students or his family. The billionaire starts to reflect on his own life. He thinks about his wealth, his endless business deals, and the luxury he takes for granted every day. He realizes that despite all his money, he rarely shows genuine care for anyone unless it benefits him. Watching Becky's story unfold makes him feel a mix of admiration and shame. He sees a man living with far less, yet giving far more, showing courage, compassion, and integrity in every action. Sefiu feels a heavy weight on his conscience. He wonders how he has spent so much time chasing wealth and status, often ignoring the people around him who may need help. The contrast between his life and Becky's humbles him. He begins to understand that true richness is not measured by cars, houses, or bank accounts, but by generosity, empathy, and the willingness to protect and support others. Even when it is difficult, he continues to follow Mbecky's life quietly, learning about his daily routine, his sacrifices, and his struggles. Each discovery deepens Sefiu's respect for him. He sees a man who faces hardship without bitterness, who loves and cares for his family and students above all else. For the first time, Sefiu realizes that wealth without heart is meaningless, and acts of kindness, like Mbecky's simple protection of Cabello, hold more power and value than any fortune. By the end of his investigation, Sefiu is determined to make things right, not only to reward Mbeki, but to honor the selfless life he has witnessed. Sefiu returns to Mbecky's school with cameras, his son, and official papers, creating an immediate stir among teachers, students, and the local community. Word spreads quickly, and everyone pauses to see what is happening. The luxury SUVs park in front of the small school, drawing a crowd of curious onlookers. Sefiu steps out, holding Cabello's hand, his calm yet commanding presence catching everyone's attention. He walks toward Mbeki, who is standing by the playground, still in his worn clothes, sweat and dust on his face, unaware of the life-changing moment about to unfold. With a warm smile, Sefiu begins speaking to Mbeki in front of cameras that capture every detail of the reunion. He praises him for his bravery, patience, and kindness in protecting Cabello. Then, in a gesture that leaves Mbeki speechless, he offers him a brand new home in a safe and comfortable neighborhood, fully furnished and ready for his mother to live in comfort. Next, he hands him papers ensuring that all medical bills for his mother will be taken care of for the rest of her life, so Mbeki never has to worry about her health again. Sefiu continues, offering Mbeki a director position in his education foundation, giving him the authority to make real changes in schools, helping children across the city. To ensure he can focus on making a difference without financial stress, Sefiu includes a lifetime salary that guarantees stability and security for both him and his mother. Mbecky's hands tremble as he signs the documents, and tears fill his eyes, not for wealth, but because his sacrifices and good heart are finally recognized and rewarded in a way he never imagined. The moment spreads like wildfire. Students cheer, teachers clap, and the news reaches every corner of the school and city. Cameras capture every reaction, from astonished classmates to proud colleagues. Soon, social media erupts with the story, sharing pictures and videos of the humble teacher who helped a lost child using the very last coins he had. People are inspired by his courage, his selflessness, and the extraordinary reward that followed. The internet drowns in comments praising Becky's bravery. Hashtags trend, and news outlets cover the story of the poor teacher who helped a lost child with his last coin. It becomes a symbol of hope, kindness, and the power of doing the right thing without expecting anything in return. Becky, still holding Cabello's hand, smiles humbly, finally realizing that his simple act of care has changed his life forever. Everyone watching feels the emotional weight of this moment, understanding that true heroism comes from the heart, not wealth or status. If you enjoyed this heartwarming story, don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment below. Subscribe to our channel for more inspiring African folktales and amazing true stories you won't want to miss.